Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Racing Mentor Sponsorship Podcast. We have Toby Trice back with us today. Hey, Toby, how's it going?
I'm good. It's good to be back. It was so weird missing last week's podcast, but awesome to see Davin share some of his views on American racing and diversity. But yeah, it's so nice to be back, Jess.
Yeah, and
How's it?
it was obviously lovely chatting to Davin, but I'm glad to have you back. Like, everything feels back to normal now.
Back to normal podcasting.
Yeah.
How are you, Jess?
Yeah, I'm good. I've had a really great week. Like, as we're recording this, I've just done lots of webinars on Instagram, and I don't know how much I can tell people at this stage, but I'm in talks with people to do some other webinars through a large company. So yeah, it's all going quite well considering everything else that's going on. I've said before that the whole coronavirus situation kind of makes everything feel like it's halted, and I'm sure everyone else who's not racing feels the same. So yeah, it's been quite nice to have some really clear forward progress this week.
Yeah, definitely. And it was nice to actually jump on the webinar myself on the recent one, Jess. Really enjoyed it. Learned a few things myself and fantastic value. So thank you for hosting them.
All right, and actually, thank you for getting involved in the chat with like bonus photography tips.
Why not?
That was really helpful.
That's what we're here for.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's jump in with a fun fact, and anyone who is on the webinar will know how much I love a fun fact. So I'll start with one of Toby's. Toby almost fell into the Grand Canyon. My God, that's like my worst nightmare, just being lost at the bottom of the Grand Canyon.
Okay, right. I don't normally talk too much about the fun facts. We kind of leave them dead, but oh my Lord, that was so scary. It was a consequence of wearing flip flops and not correctly following the right path, and Katie tripped and hit me, sort of like bumped into me. I caught her, but then I stumbled back right onto the edge of a 2,000-foot drop. It was petrifying.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's one for a pub one day, I think. Yeah. Jess's fun fact of the week, and this is a bit of an argument of debate, I suppose. But Jess enjoys pineapple on pizza.
I do. I don't understand the big upset over pineapple on pizza.
Does cause quite a stir, right?
Oh, we're gonna get so many trolls now. No,
I don't know.
I'm a proud lover of pineapple on pizza. Yes, let's get to the actual podcast. So today we're going to be talking about how to handle objections in the pitch process. Now, I think it's probably best to talk first about what is an objection. So this is usually the thing that, you're having a great conversation with a sponsor. You say to them, right, are you ready to sign on the dotted line? And they say, oh, I don't know. I don't know if we have the budget for this, or we need to speak to someone on the board. Or they say, oh, I don't know if we actually have the resources to activate this kind of thing. So I was just wondering, Toby, what objections you've come across in your pitching process.
I've had those objections, Jess. I've had things where people said, "Oh, I'm too busy. We can't talk about it right now. We've not reviewed our budget yet, so we're not able to discuss this in more depth." All those kind of things, and I'm like, and it is frustrating because you're like, well, what I'm offering is really great. Let's get going,
Yeah.
So, I've come across those, Jess, and it's tricky because obviously you want to. You believe in what you're doing, and you want to get it across the line, and you want to help the sponsor out with what their goals and achievements. You've already spoke about that sort of stuff. So when you get these objections, you're like, oh man.
Yeah.
How about you, Jess? What experience have you got?
So usually it's the whole we don't have the budget, meaning this is way too expensive, or we have, like you said, we haven't prepared the budget for the next year, or actually more recently I've had quite a few around Brexit. Like, oh, it's uncertain, we're not sure what's going on, we want to wait until after Brexit, whatever after Brexit is. And then I'm guessing a lot of people now are having coronavirus linked objections too. So they actually come in all kind of forms, but usually they're centered around money. And I would actually say, though, that money ones are the easiest to get around. And we'll go through like some classic objections and how to overcome them, but I'm just gonna give a few more kind of examples. So a lot of people might say we don't have any budget left, like they've spent all their budget. They might say that they're already working with another driver or another team. And again, that's an easy one to overcome as well. It might be that they just say that this stuff's not important right now. They might say that they don't have the capacity for more work. They might be really, really honest with you and just say that, they don't see the value in what you're doing, or they don't see the potential for return on investment. And actually, all of these things come down to them not believing in the value that you're going to offer. And I think that's really key, because a lot of the time when you're doing objection handling, as it's called, when you're overcoming these objections, you actually need to get down to the root of the problem. So you need to actually work out what is this, business person saying? Are they saying that they're completely not interested, or are they saying that they don't, believe in the benefits that you're offering? So I think it's worth just bearing that in mind when you do get an objection. What is that person actually saying? What is the actual problem here? And if you're in a meeting or on a call, it's actually much easier to kind of get to the bottom of it. So if someone says, we don't have the capacity for extra work, you can start saying to them things like, okay, well, if you got X amount more work, would that justify bringing on another person? Do you have policies in place for scaling up? You can ask all these questions that makes them think, well, actually, it's silly. Like, what business doesn't want to earn more money? Like, even if you're at capacity, that's just the next level of scaling up the business. And there are very few businesses that wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah,
So,
why would you not?
yeah, exactly. So I think there's definitely an element of like digging a bit deeper. And Toby, I know that you're really good at kind of asking questions, and you're obviously like easy to communicate with during these kind of processes. So do you have like a certain like few questions that you ask, or is it just about kind of leaning on your sponsors' needs to kind of get to the bottom of what it is that they really want?
Yeah, I mean, I think this boils down for me down to the relationship building part. I think the better relationship you have with your sponsor, the more sort of transparent the conversation can be, the more open you and them can be, and I think that for me is a really important part. And I bang on the drum all the time about relationship building is really important. I know you do, Jess. And all of my relationship building up to the point of the proposal, usually by that point I've got a really good relationship with them that I can almost just pick up the phone and just be quite chatty, and that helps a lot with the objection handling, so that when it comes down to understanding the objections, I don't feel worried, or I feel confident in asking them, like, kind of, what's going on? Do you not see value in what I'm doing? Does this not meet your goals? That kind of stuff. And then I get a better understanding, and then I can actually be really sure if their objection is genuine because of whatever reason they've come up with, or actually it might just be that they've just not understood something of my proposal. And that for me has been probably the biggest part, I guess, of dealing with objections. I don't have any particular kind of like sort of questions back to them or anything like that. It's just a case of just talking. I just enjoy talking with sponsors. I always really, really believe in what I do, and what I offer to sponsors. So I see value myself for that sponsor, because I won't want to waste their time in the first place. And as long as I understand their goals and I've got a good relationship with them, then it's just a case of just talking. That's how I feel about it, Jess. How about you?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there, but I think because of the whole how important the relationship building stage is, I think it's easy to kind of come prepared for objections. And especially if you're going into a really, really big deal, it's worth kind of thinking, okay, what could the possible objections be? Might they talk about money? Might they talk about resources? Might they talk about, time of their staff, all that kind of stuff. So it's really worth thinking about what someone might say to your pitch when they're trying to make a decision. So if you can then come prepared for those objections. So let's say if someone says, oh, this is too expensive, hopefully they wouldn't, because you would have qualified them early on and hinted that the price was going to be around that figure anyway. But if they come back saying, oh, it's too expensive, you can say, okay, I understand that. So make sure that they hear that you understand their objections. Don't just like barrel in going, no, you're wrong. Go, okay, I really hear that. Is this something that could be moved over from marketing budget or advertising budget or events budget? Because if you're doing something for a lot of money, typically you're doing lots of different activities that fall into different categories within a big business. So it might
Yeah.
be that they're taking bits from different budgets, but then you can always go back to the benefits of what you're offering. Like, so they say it's too expensive. You say, okay, I hear you, I understand. Do you still see value in doing this event for your customers? Do you think that would get you more sales with distributors, for example? And they'll go, yeah, I think it would. And then that makes them think, well, actually, maybe we should find some money for this. So it's about kind of like taking a step back to where you were in that relationship building phase of things, and starting to kind of like focus on, okay, these are the benefits again. Do you see value? And then come back to that money conversation again, maybe a bit later on.
Yeah, and on that note of kind of seeing value, if for example their budget is a little bit more restricted than what the kind of overall proposal is, you can then start learning to understand what are the benefits that sort of benefit them the most, what features benefit them most. So then you can kind of scale down your proposal and take elements out that will fit within their budget. So that's another thing that you can do. It might not be that they can't afford the whole thing, and if they can't, what can they afford and what are they going to get the most value out from? And then it allows a conversation for year 2 with your sponsorship. They might have then earned more money off the back of the work that you've done with them, and then the following year they might actually take the full proposal. So having that conversation is so important.
Yeah, totally agree. So ideally, you'll be addressing these like face to face, or at least on a call with a person, just because I feel like if you're doing this over email, they can just kind of ignore you. So if they've decided that they don't want to spend that money, getting in touch with them over email, or like handling that objection over email is going to be really tough. So always try and get on a call at the very least to try and like see what they think about a pitch, or to talk figures, or even to talk contracts, because it might be the objections come up at that stage as well. But I kind of just want to hammer home this point of make it clear that you hear them, make it clear that you understand them, and that you appreciate, the this kind of stumbling block in the process, and that that their worries aren't unfounded. So like Toby just said, like the whole thing with, if they say, oh, we don't have quite that much budget, then you can kind of go back to that negotiation stage of like, which of these things do you find most valuable, and work on like how you can build those into a sponsorship package that fits more with their budget. But again, it always comes down to value. So always be asking that question, do you see value in this? Or can you see where this might be beneficial to you? Because that makes them see the bigger picture, that, it might be 1, 2, 3 years down the line where they're actually making money from the money that they've put into you. And that's important.
Completely agree.
So I think it's also worth saying that being really confident in what you offer makes it so much easier. So like if you are pitching to a business and you are absolutely 100% sure that you can bring the most benefit to them through what you're offering, then it's going to be so much easier when they come up with an objection to say, don't worry, this will work for these reasons, and this is the result you'll get out of it at the end. And I think a lot of drivers go into pitches very, very nervous, which is fine. It's fine to be nervous, but you should be supremely confident in the things that you're offering, and know that they will help a business hit that goals, because you'll have done the hard work up front. You'll have built the relationships. You'll have done all your research. You'll understand their industry and their market through research, or maybe through, personal experience of that industry. So I think it's really, really important that you're really, really focusing on what you can offer early on. So when it does get to this late stage and you are having to handle objections, it kind of comes quite naturally. And again, Toby, like you say, the relationship is a big part of that. Because if you're scared to say to someone, I hear you, but actually it would work like this, if you don't feel comfortable doing that, then maybe you need to take a few more steps back and go back to the relationship building part.
Yeah, because I feel like when you just touched on your point there about kind of confidence, Jess, it kind of goes alongside just your natural persona around that person. If you're confident in the product that you're offering, or whichever angle you're sort of going down in the sponsorship route, and it's exciting, you kind of get that excitement. Oh my god, this can be really beneficial for the sponsor. I think this can be really helpful. This is the kind of return they're going to get because you've worked that out. you're kind of fueled and buzzed for it. You kind of like, oh, this is awesome for a sponsor, and that comes across when you have that conversation with a sponsor. As long as you're doing it either face to face, telephone, or online Zoom call, that comes across. And sometimes that could be the difference between you getting the deal or them going, do you know what, I'm not really confident in that person. It's kind of from my old days when I used to work in a bank, kind of people by people. And I think in this particular topic, I think that's quite true. Because if you're sat there, you know, feeling nervous, and it's absolutely fine to feel nervous because this could be a really big deal that could change your motorsport career. But if those kind of nerves come across and you don't feel confident, or you don't appear to be confident of what you're offering, it kind of leads that person to also feel not confident in what you're selling. So being confident, being excited, which should come naturally because what you're offering is great, really does help transform objections and understanding their objections.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think there's a lot that you can do to kind of prepare for objections as well. So just kind of, I mean, like we've just said, just understanding what might come up, and especially if you know a business person quite well from your relationship building, you'll probably have a sense of like what it is that they are going to say. So it might be that they've been mentioning money the whole way through. They're quite money focused. So you might have a harder time kind of reiterating the value back based on a high amount of money. So you might just have to do more work there to kind of assuage their fears. But should we talk about different kinds of objections and more directly like how to handle them?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got a few that I prepared. Although actually, it'd be, if I couldn't put you on the spot, Toby, it might be interesting to see how you would handle these. If you're up for it.
Let's see.
Okay.
Let's see.
So let's go with a relatively easy one. So if a sponsor comes back and says, "No, I think this is too expensive."
Okay, so that to me is they're not seeing the value. They've not said they can't afford it. They just think it's expensive. So for me, that's a kind of value proposition. I need to go back and talk through the value points, ask them questions about do they see value in what I'm offering, and actually really get, you know, an understanding of what that actually means to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally agree. And what if they say that they don't see the potential for return on investment?
Tricky one.
That is a tricky one.
That is a tricky one.
Especially in this kind of industry. But like, do your best and I'll tell you what I would say with the article in front of me telling me what to say.
That's a bit easier having that. You're cheating, Jess.
I am cheating. I wrote it at least.
That's true. I think on that note, that to me comes down to numbers. Some of the people that you talk to are very much number orientated. So they want to actually see kind of calculations and they want to see kind of facts and that kind of stuff. And if it was looking at the return on investment, I would kind of break down the numbers for them, work out kind of, or you should have these numbers in your head anyway, but you know roughly how much each customer or each client that they'd get is worth to them. So let's say that's £1,000. You can look at the reach number that you're going to aim to get, and as long as you understand what their sort of conversion rate is from their reach to their sales, you can then sort of give an idea of actually how much that's going to return for them. And then as long as that number's higher than what the amount you're proposing to them is, you can actually then show them the potential growth that they're going to get is X different. And I would talk more about the numbers at that point. I might be wrong there, Jess. You might have a different opinion.
No, totally agree. Yeah, focus on the numbers. Anyone that's talking about any kind of return on investment is thinking, how does X amount of sponsorship money turn into X plus X amount of revenue? So yeah, they want to know numbers. A good thing to do at this stage is you should have some figures that you already have like prepared for this. But you can say to a sponsor, you can say, okay, when you normally do, let's say a trade show, if that's their thing, when you normally do a trade show, how many leads do you get? What if you were to increase the quality of those leads and therefore increase conversion rates? But also, what if you could get more of those leads because you're getting people to come over to, race me on a simulator or something like that? So you can again paint the picture of, this isn't just about the money. You're not just paying money for some kind of result at the end. This is the hard work that's going to be happening in the middle, and how that directly translates to leads and therefore conversions. So even if you don't necessarily know the hard figures of, they get 100 leads per trade show and you can increase that by 20%, but also increase their conversion rate from 2% to 3%, you can almost paint a picture, because they're going to know their figures. So they'll be able to go, well, actually, yeah, because if our conversion rate was 3%, it would be this. And then it all kind of starts to come together in their head. So absolutely correct, Toby.
It gives them clarity, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And what if they say for you to give them a call back like next year, or in the next 6 months or something like that?
I've had that. So I've had that, and I've had a point where it didn't go any further, and I've had a point where it became a sponsor, and this was obviously last year when I raced in the GRDC, and the way kind of I would talk about that would be, that's quite an alarm bell that they just want to kind of feel like they just want to push you aside, and I would kind of spring on some sort of urgency that actually, why wait? If they're interested enough to say that, we'll discuss this next year, why wait? Try to really understand why they're saying that. It could be that they just really don't get it, and you know what, I haven't got time right now, let's just push it aside to next season. And if that is the case, like, you go back to the early stages and go, right, let's sit down and talk through this, because if you want me to come back next year, you're going to miss out on a year's worth of opportunity. And yeah, that's kind of where I'd be with that one.
Yep, totally agree. I would be quite cheeky and I'd say, right, what is going to change in that time for you? Especially if I had a good relationship with them, I'd be quite forward of, if you start now, you're going to be a year, 6 months, whatever it is, ahead than if you delay. I think, again, it's about getting down to what actually is this objection. What are they actually saying? Is it they just don't have time to handle this? In which case, how can you make it easier for them? Is it that they don't have money? Maybe they're in financial troubles, in which case, do wait. Maybe there's something smaller you guys can do together in the meantime. It's all about kind of asking those questions. So there's something that is used a lot in coaching called active listening, where you make it quite clear that you are listening by saying, all that kind of thing, which is why I'm not silent on the other end of the microphone when you're talking, Toby. I just can't. It's trained into me. But you can do that when you're in a meeting. You can make it quite clear that you're listening and you're understanding. But then a big part of that is kind of almost repeating the question back to them. So saying something like, okay, I hear you're saying that you'd rather talk in 6 months, but can I just ask a couple more questions? Because I'm really interested to know where your business is now and how that actually might change in 6 months, if you want to be a bit more gentle about it.
Yeah, and it shows genuine interest, doesn't it? Because that you have to understand that they might be in a position where they just can't do anything for the next 6 months or 12 months. And as long as you understand that, then, that's cool. But that's also an opportunity to further develop your relationship with them. You're not just then just going to go, I'm not going to speak to them for 6 months, I'll speak to them next year, because that's not the way to do things. It actually gives you more opportunity to know that business, that person, and further build your relationship, and even kind of offer if there's anything you can help with, because they might actually be struggling. They might really want to do this, but they really might not be in a position to. Okay, well, what can we do now to try and kind of help you with that? Then later on down the line, once things are all good, let's talk through it properly.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have written an article on the kind of objections that you might come up across when pitching, and how to handle each one. So look out for that on blog.racingmentor.com. And if you go to the show notes for this episode, which is also on the blog, you'll be able to find a link to that post there as well. Do you have anything else to kind of add on this, Toby, before we move on to our driver of the week?
No, I think it would be nice to hear from the community if you're able to post in the Racing Mentor sponsorship Facebook community group, because I'd love to hear what objections you've had. I'm sure what we've talked about is quite kind of, we've all probably experienced very similar types of objections. But yeah, I'd just love to hear from you guys. If you've got anything that you think, okay, I've had this objection, I didn't really know how to handle it, or it didn't go well, or whatever it might be, then feel free to drop it in there, because I think it's good for us all to learn what objections we've had and maybe how we've overcome them. Some of the most exciting ones are where people have had objections, and they've then understood what that objection was, and they've then turned it around into actual sponsorship, and that sponsors really benefit from it, but they just may have not understood in the first place. And I think stories like that are quite nice to know. But yeah, feel free to drop it in the community group. I'm sure me and Jess will read them and hopefully share some advice.
Yeah, and I just like one final point on both Brexit and coronavirus. Again, you have to kind of get down to into the weeds of like, actually, what is this objection about? If someone's saying, yeah, Brexit, or coronavirus, like, what is it? Is it that you don't have money? Is it an uncertainty over the future? Do you just not know what's going on and you don't want to make any decisions within the next 3, 6, 12 months? Like, actually find out what they mean, because to me, I guess as a marketing person, it makes no sense to cut back on marketing when you're unsure of the future.
True.
Because if you're not marketing, you're going to just fall even further behind. Actually, this is something that I say a lot to clients of my content agency, is there has never been a better time to start communicating on a deeper level with your customers, because that breeds loyalty and everyone is going to feel kind of excited and fired up to support the businesses that they're loyal to in this kind of weird climate. So I think that's something to kind of make a point of. If someone comes back saying, we're not sure about this whole coronavirus situation, we've been affected, or Brexit has affected us, obviously be aware that, it may have affected them. They may have less money than maybe they did a few years ago. But again, that's just something that you can address maybe in your price point, or starting small, or maybe building with them over the next few years. So I just kind of want to end before our driver of the week on that kind of final point of it's about kind of, like we always say, building relationships and just making sure that you are able to kind of have these conversations with your prospects so you can get down to what it's all really about.
Absolutely, the business end, right, Jess? And yeah, good luck, everyone, and look forward to hearing your success stories and anything that you've kind of come up with. But hopefully, you've taken something from that, and I think it's a really interesting point of conversation for sponsorship, because this really is the make or break point, I suppose, in sponsorship. If you don't get objections, awesome, you've got the sponsor on board, and yeah, it's all good.
Yeah.
So shall we get on to our drive of the week, Jess?
Yeah, I'm super excited about this one. This is a driver that I've been thinking about kind of putting in for a while now. And it's no real kind of relation to the topic of this particular podcast episode, but I just think she's incredible. And maybe this is a bit of a fangirl moment, which is why I've kind of resisted putting her in, because typically we're putting in people who are very much part of our community. But I would like to put forward Pippa Mann as our driver of the week, just because I think that just all of the work that she does is incredible. She's just a really powerful person who just knows her stuff, incredible driver, but she also does a lot of social good in like promoting women in motorsport, kind of a lot of diversity and equality stuff. And she's just a really great person. And I just want to encourage everyone to give her a follow on social media, because she is an inspiration. Regardless of whatever walk of life you're from. So on Instagram, if you're not already following her, she's Pippa Mann, PIPPAMANN.
Yeah, I really like Pippa's Instagram, actually, Jess, because I think I like her. She does the kind of quotes posts that are really inspirational. And on my feed, I kind of occasionally see them come through, and you sort of stop and read them, and you're like, yeah, that makes sense. That's really cool. And
yeah,
sponsorship hunt is hard, especially at the moment with the COVID situation. It is difficult, but sort of seeing that's really inspirational. It kind of gives you a bit more fire to go, do you know what, that's cool, and yeah, congratulations, Pippa. It's awesome to welcome you aboard the club, the winners club.
And yeah, I think those little kind of like quote things are just like the boost that we all need when scrolling through our feed sometimes. And she also just has great photography. But what I really like is I've had quite a few conversations with Pippa, and what I really like is that she embraces the fact that she is a female racing driver without leaning on it so heavily that it's a gimmick. Like, it's just quite clear that she is a racing driver. She is quick. She knows how to do her job. But she's also still experienced, a lot of the same stuff that women in motorsport have all experienced, in that people just assume you're not quick or that you are a gimmick. and just the way she handles it, I just think is a really, really great example of how it should be done. So I think everyone should give her a follow if they're not following her already. And congratulations, Pippa, and thank you for being one of our drivers of the week.
Awesome. Another great episode, Jess.
Yeah, it's been a good one. So next week, we're going to be talking about time management. And actually, this is something I've had a lot from drivers lately. It seems like everyone is busier than ever at the moment. So I'm really looking forward to getting into that, because I think we've kind of covered this in a fun fact is that I'm super organized at work, but not at home. So my time management at work is really, really good. So I'm like so excited to share all my productivity hacks.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that episode actually, Jess, because time management is really key for me, because I've got a pretty busy job. I train really hard, and I still have to find time to do all the kind of sponsorship stuff. So super important, time management, and I'm always learning. It's a learning thing, right?
Absolutely.
But I look forward to seeing you guys next week and chatting about time management.
Yeah. So thank you, everyone. Have a great week, and we will see you soon.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.